Hello and welcome to the JB&M Sports Fanatic channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for this video. And so, yeah, we finished up one heck of a crazy Saturday. We saw a lot of teams that were ranked take some L's, a lot of big games we thought would be some great ones become blowouts. We saw a lot of things yesterday that really just shook up the AP poll. So I'm really looking forward to, as this will be the first time that I'll be seeing it as well, going through the AP top 25 and just seeing where these teams finished after yesterday's performance. But wow, talk about performances that really just stood out yesterday. We'll start at the top. Number one ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. They were previously ranked number one. No surprise there. They beat Ole Miss, 42-21. A lot of people, including myself, said Ole Miss, presents the biggest offensive threat in terms of teams that they played. Well, there's one thing about Ole Miss. When they come into a game with high expectations, yeah, they generally, I guess, don't live up to those expectations. But yeah, Bama came in and they showed why they're the clear-cut favorite, number one, and why they deserve to be at the top. I mean, my goodness, they look fantastic out there. I mean, the score says 42-21, but Ole Miss was really down by a lot more than that until they finally got those 21 points. So, yeah, they took care of business. Their next opponent is going to be Texas A&M. And so, yeah, Bama should have no problem with that one as well. And so, obviously, the biggest question, I guess, if you had to nitpick on this team, is going to be the defense, but the offense is so good, and they've got so much talent that I really wouldn't call that a concern. So, yeah, Bama's number one. At the second spot is the University of Georgia Bulldogs. So they laid down a convincing beatdown of number 8 Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas is not as bad as they looked out there. I mean, Arkansas is really having a good season, and so I hope that they can bounce back, moving forward. But in terms of what the Bulldogs did, that defense did fantastic. And that running game, I know they ran the ball like 43 plus times against Arkansas. So therefore, yeah, the Bulldogs, they got after it on the ground. Every running back who touched the ball, he basically could have had his way out there. They could have had multiple backs have 200 yards if they really wanted to, but they ran a running back by committee, ran about 6 guys throughout the game, and there was nothing that Arkansas could do. The coaching staff really did them a disservice in that one, but take no credit away from the Bulldogs here. That defense is for real, and you can see that offense is coming to speed as well. And so they've definitely, in my opinion, shown that clearly we got Bama at number one. And now we know for a fact that Georgia's a strong 2, and then there's a bit of a gap between, I think, the second spot and the third spot. But speaking of the third spot, and their next matchup is going to be against Auburn, which should be a favorable matchup for the Bulldogs. But number 3, Iowa Hawkeyes. And so, yeah, they were previously ranked number 5, but yeah, on Friday night, they actually played down in Maryland, and Tua Tagovailoa's brother had about 6 turnovers, 6 interceptions in the game, I think. They won 51-14. Now, I know Maryland wasn't ranked, but Maryland was undefeated. So to go down to a team's home on a primetime game and beat them 51-14, that goes to show that Iowa team, I've been saying it for weeks now, that Iowa team, there's something serious. They're a really big threat in the Big Ten. I mean, at this point, possibly the favorites and stuff, because they definitely had the most complete season so far. So very impressive win. They'll be playing against Penn State in their next matchup, so looking forward to that one. All right, so speaking of Penn State, they're number 4. And so I agree with this. Between Iowa number 3, Penn State number 4, both teams undefeated. But I really like what I'm seeing from Iowa. Penn State, I'm a little bit more suspect than. They beat Indiana 24-0. That's great. I know Indiana beat them last year, so they were able to avenge that loss. But I'm just wondering, because I know that they played, a tough game against Wisconsin early in the season. Wisconsin could have won that game if they had a quarterback. Quarterback has been holding Wisconsin back. Penn State, to me, is a team that they are a little bit more beatable than Iowa. So that's why I agree with the 3 Iowa, 4 Penn State. But Penn State's still a very good team. And, hey, it may just come down to those 2 teams ultimately in the Big Ten. You just never know. So 3 and 4, I love this. And it's really big for the Big Ten as well to have both of these teams ranked in the top 5. So that's big news right there for the Big Ten as well. But at number 5, the Cincinnati Bearcats. And what a big win it was against number 9, Notre Dame. Notre Dame was coming off a very impressive win last week, in which we could almost call that a statement win against Wisconsin, where in that fourth quarter, they were able to score 2 touchdowns on the defense, a special teams touchdown and an offensive touchdown, all that in one quarter. But the Cincinnati Bearcats, last year, they were left out of the college football playoffs. And I know they felt some type of way about that. But they showed up in a game like this that you have to show up and show out. And they showed out and they took it to Notre Dame. They won 24-13 over a Notre Dame team that, was showing that they were a very good team. And so very impressed with that win by the Cincinnati Bearcats. And that's a win right there that the committee's going to have to consider this time around late in the year if Cincinnati can run the table the rest of the way. So that's a big win right there for that Cincinnati team. And their next matchup will be against Temple. So at number 6, the Oklahoma Sooners. And I feel like every week we're watching Oklahoma slide on the AP poll. They're undefeated, yes, but every single game is a one-possession game, and you can only keep that up for so long. Your defense has got to step up. They've got to. They started off the year ranked number 2 in the country, and look at them now. They're number 6, and they haven't lost a game. That goes to tell you that in terms of the eye test, the committee is not impressed at all with the eye test, at all, when it comes to this team. They beat Kansas State 37-31. Now, Kansas State, that's a good team. But the problem is with Oklahoma is that it's been that way with every single opponent that they've played. So many times they could have lost this year. And, it shows resilience on the offensive side to win. But we know against some of the bigger top-tier teams up there, they wouldn't be able to do that. So that's why you have them at number 6. So, I can certainly understand that. Now at number 7, you've got Ohio State here at 4-1. Ohio State, that big loss they had against Oregon, that was a big game. And I find that interesting. We'll talk about Oregon in a little bit. But they were able to play their best game of the season against Rutgers. I have always said Ohio State has the talent. When it comes to a team like Ohio State, that does so well with recruiting, it's just a matter of time before that talent starts to play. Now, I know it's Rutgers. But, if you gradually just watch this team more and more, you had C.J. Stroud. He went out there, threw for 5 touchdowns in the first half. And so that just goes to show, if this team can start getting some confidence, look out. Their next opponent is going to be Maryland. It's going to be a minute before they play another top-tier team that's going to really challenge them. You think of your Penn States, you think of late in the season, your Michigans, your Michigan States, all those teams. But they're going to have an opportunity, to still compete for the college football playoffs, more so because the strength of the rest of their conference. But it doesn't help that Oregon took a loss. And so speaking of Oregon, at number 8, so they fell from 3 to 8 because Oregon lost a game that I don't think a lot of people saw coming. They were sleeping on that Stanford team. That Stanford team, they can rise to the occasion. If you're a top team, they can match, the type of energy that you bring. And so that time, they outdid the Oregon Ducks. Oregon showed up and played their C game, and Stanford showed up ready to play, and Stanford won. But Stanford's a good team. Oregon's still a good team as well. I still believe in this team, and so there's no doubt in my mind that this team can still contend and win the conference. And so putting them at number 8, I can agree with that. You probably could have swapped them with Ohio State since they did beat Ohio State, but putting them at number 8, you won't get any complaints from me. At number 9 is the Michigan Wolverines. So they were previously ranked 14, but beaten on Wisconsin. I feel like Wisconsin has had a brutal schedule so far in terms of just the losses that they've had. But, Notre Dame, Penn State, but they lost to some good teams now. But still, though, it's a tough start to the schedule for Wisconsin. But as for Michigan, though, that offense is looking something serious. I believe that coming into the game, Michigan's defense was ranked number 4 in points allowed. And 34th in yards allowed per game. So the defense is playing really good right now. The offense is looking as good as I've seen in a long time from a Michigan team. So putting them at number 9, I understand why we're jumping them up there because Michigan is certainly a team that you got to watch out for. No doubt about that. Number 10, BYU. And so, so BYU, they jumped up from 13 to 10 after beating Utah State, 34-20, pretty good Utah State team. Their next test is going to be Boise State. And so for them, what can we say? The running back, he had 218 yards and 3 touchdowns in that game against Utah State. And so they're definitely a team to keep an eye out for. This BYU team, they're solid. I'm not going to say, in my opinion, that I think that they're, one of the teams that can contend with one of those top-tier teams, but they're certainly a team that, if you're going out there, you better bring your A game for it because this team is going to be ready to play. At number 11, Michigan State. We're seeing a lot of Big Ten teams up there. For real, the talent this year in the Big Ten is very evident. Michigan State, 5-0. They just beat Western Kentucky 48-31. They had that impressive win down in Miami not too long ago. It was like 38-17. Michigan State, they came into their, they were slight favorites on the road, the last couple of weeks. And so Now you're starting to see this Michigan State team play with some confidence, and I'm really looking forward to when they have matchups against Michigan, matchups against Ohio State, some of those schools. But yeah, 5-0 right now, ranked number 11. I like it. They've got some great receivers to work with. Love their running back, So yeah, they got some X factors on this team, and Michigan State's a team that if you play this team, don't overlook them. Like, don't overlook them. I mean, because unless you're Bama or something like that, or I'll say Georgia as well right now, you're going to be in for a dogfight. And even then, they're still going to bring a lot of effort. But yeah, Michigan State, they're a team that's on the rise. Number 12 is Oklahoma State. They had a 24-14 win over 21 Baylor. So they jumped up from 19 to 12 as they should, in a matchup like that. Two top 25 teams, in conference. That was a big win right there. And so obviously their running back, he's shown that he can be that bell cow that they need. And so that's really impressive with them. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to finish the season as well. But yeah, we know when it comes to Oklahoma State, we know they're going to bring some offense. But the fact that their defense is out there holding a team to 14 that was ranked, I like that aspect for them. But that matchup against Texas, watch out. That could be a game that Texas could very well win, or it could go Oklahoma State. Just going to come out and who wants it more. Number 13 is the Arkansas Razorback. Now, the fact that they dropped from 8 just to 13 after a beatdown that they took, that goes to tell you that the committee understands that Arkansas, they're a good team. They just went out there and they just played a better team that day. Georgia was the better team that day. Arkansas was out-coached. Arkansas, they was outmatched. They was outplayed. They were out-schemed. They gave up. They honestly gave up. They kept shooting themselves in the foot. How you have more penalty yards than you do yards in the entire game? That tells me that you're a team that you lost focus in this game. The moment became too big. Going down there to Athens with that defense that you had to face, and then that running game that they came with, and then not to mention Bennett passing the ball. I mean, that was a bit much. That was a bit much. But but putting them at 13, that I like it. Let's not think that their season's over by any means. I mean, it is one loss at the end of the day, as bad of a loss as it is. And they're going to be playing Ole Miss, two teams that's going to be looking to bounce back. So I'm excited to see how that one's going to play out between Arkansas and Ole Miss, the battle of who can rebound and save their season rather than going a downward spiral. Notre Dame at number 14. This was perhaps the biggest loss of any team that took a loss in terms of just playoff implications. Because for the Fighting Irish, you don't have the benefit of winning the conference. You don't have the benefit of a conference championship game that last week as that extra eye test for the committee. So now you got to go out there. You've got to win some impressive wins, kind of like you did against Wisconsin, except you need it to be you got to completely dominate the rest of the schedule, and then you're probably going to need a little bit more help at the end of the season, just depending on where these teams rank at, if you want any types of hopes of the college football playoffs. But odds are this might have been it for them. I hate to call it that early in the season, but yeah, this might have been it in terms of Notre Dame's potential for the college football playoffs this season. But you never know. It's still early in the season. That's the one benefit here. If they can go out and run the table, we'll see how things go from there. But they'll have a good matchup against Virginia Tech. And you can't sleep on Virginia Tech going down to Virginia Tech. You just don't want to do that. So we'll see how that works out. 15, Coastal Carolina. They won 59-6 versus UL Monroe, but hey, the offense was pretty good. I like what I'm seeing from this team. They moved up from 16 to 15, so keep an eye out for this team. I expect for them to continue to go out there and put out great shows. I mean, they're a fun team to watch, and so I'm excited for them. I know the fan base is excited, and so, yeah, their next matchup will be Arkansas State. I expect for Coastal Carolina to continue to win moving forward. Number 16 is the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, nobody would have saw this coming. Absolutely nobody. But after that 20-13 win over the University of Florida, they caught University of Florida at the right time. There was a time where a win for Kentucky over Florida only came in baseball, only came in softball. But here we go. In football, the Kentucky Wildcats are showing that they no longer fear the University of Florida when it comes to that matchup. I mean, they won a good game, 20-13. It wasn't that Florida played bad so much as it was that Kentucky just rose to the occasion. That defense played fantastic. We saw how Florida matched up against Bama and took them to the wire. That's why when it comes to the SEC team, it's just down to a matchup game by game. Who's playing well that week, who's not. But Kentucky, to jump from unranked to 16, massive. That goes to tell you the committee, they love what they saw there. The next matchup against LSU, they can't afford to let down. Can't afford to let down in that matchup. It's going to be a nighttime game too. Things are going to get crazy, but I'm liking what I'm seeing from Kentucky, and I'm excited for them moving forward. Now at number 17, Ole Miss. In spite of the fact that they had played, Bama, they did drop from 12 to 17. Now that Bama just went out there and showed that they were the better team. I mean, all that talk, all the hype leading up to it, Bama just went out there, took care of business, and showed Lane Kiffin that, look, it's going to take a lot more if you want to upset this Bama team. So, yeah, they got knocked down a bit, but they can recover, and they've got the perfect matchup to do that versus Arkansas. That's a game I'm going to be looking forward to see who's going to rebound, who's going to get back to playing their style of football, honestly, out there. That's what we're going to look and see. Both schools did not live up to the hypes of the games that they were playing. I know that. That's tough, but, yeah. Now, next up is number 18, the Auburn Tigers. And so for Auburn, they're ranked 22. They beat LSU 24-19. A very close one. But Bo Nix, what can I say? He was doing some crazy passes and stuff. It worked out for him. 255 yards passing, another 74 yards on the ground. So, hey, I mean, he's an X factor. That's what X factors do in big time situations. So big win for Auburn, and we'll see if they can keep it going. But, of course, when it comes to a team like Auburn, they've got Georgia coming up next. That's going to be a very big task right there. But let's see how they hold up against them Bulldogs there, and let's see if they can make it a game out there. And you never know what happens when it comes to these SEC programs. It's about who's playing good that week, honestly. But that's one thing we're going to have to keep an eye out for. Number 19, Wake Forest, the undefeated Wake Forest. Someone's got to win the ACC, and I don't think it's going to be Clemson this year. So someone's got to win the ACC. Boston College took that L to Clemson. That was kind of big right there. So now I'm looking at Wake Forest. They're 5-0, came back, beat Louisville 37-34. They've got Syracuse coming up next, another winnable game for them. And so if Syracuse can if Wake Forest can stay focused, one game at a time, one win at a time, they can very well find themselves in a situation where we're talking about the Demon Deacons representing the ACC in the conference championship game. That's right, folks. The days of Clemson just dominating are completely over. Well, I shouldn't say completely over. I might have jumped the gun there, but this season, at least, I can speak for this season. Anybody can have a shot at the ACC, and it's wide open. Wide open. Who wants it? But yeah, Wake Forest, ranked number 19, jumped up from 24. You guys better start paying attention to them because if they can keep this going, look out. And now Florida, they took a massive hit, lose to Kentucky. Nobody really saw that coming, but they lost. And so now they drop all the way from 10 to 20. They're now 3-2 on the season there. So that was a big loss against Kentucky there. They'll get to play Vanderbilt, so that should help them right the ship moving forward. But yeah, the offense, yeah, they failed to rush for more than 200 yards for the first time all season. Expected them to get back to playing their style of football against Vanderbilt and establish that ground game moving forward. But yeah, they are ranked number 20 and they're 3-2. Texas Longhorns ranked 21. After that 32-27 win over TCU, they've got Oklahoma coming up next. So Oklahoma, you know how that is. When Texas and Oklahoma play, throw the rankings out the door, throw the records out the door. These two teams are going to come ready to play. And that's been the case for Texas. They've shown up for the most part of this season ready to play. And when they show up ready to play, they actually do look like a top 15 team. But if you catch them when they're not ready to play, then that's different. They can be beaten by a team that's not really ranked. So it's going to come up to how they're going to look. Now, Texas, I like their odds here against Oklahoma. Oklahoma, they've been struggling. I said it earlier. Every game has been close. You mess around and keep this game close against Texas, Texas going to beat you. I guarantee you that. Plus, it's already a rivalry, so you already know. But, yeah, you look at the running back that they've got for Texas, and, yeah, he's living up to that 5-star recruiting hype that he had coming out of high school for sure. So he's Bijah Robinson. So that's the guy to keep an eye out for in this matchup, and we're going to see how he does in this one. But Texas is 6-0, going back to last season when he rushes for more than 100 yards. So keep that in mind as well. Next up, We've got the Arizona State Sun Devils at 4-1, coming off of a big time win, 42-23 over number 20 UCLA. And UCLA has been pretty much up and down, hot and cold. 1 second they're upset, and the next second they're getting upset. You just never know which team's going to step out in the field. But good job by Arizona State being ready, being prepared. But they're going to have a tough one coming up against Stanford. We saw what Stanford did to Oregon, so this should be a very good matchup here against Stanford. And if Stanford can beat Arizona State, then hey, look out here. But for Arizona State, it's going to come down to their quarterback. I mean, he's a junior. He threw for 300 yards 5 times as a freshman. So I'm looking forward to this one as well. This could be a big opportunity for both of these teams, honestly, in terms of getting pushed up into the AP poll rankings even higher, especially for Arizona State. It presents that opportunity for that offense to go out there and show what they can do. But matter of fact, they have scored 35 points in 4 of their 5 games. And so, hey, they're 4-1. So that tells you the number for them is 35. They're going to want to reach 35 points in this game. At number 23, you've got North Carolina State Wolfpacks. Last week they had the upset of all upsets, beating Clemson. This week, they nearly got upset by Louisiana Tech, a good Louisiana Tech team, but they nearly got beat by Louisiana Tech 30, but they did win 34-27. That's what it comes down to. Next up is Boston College. Boston College looking to bounce back from that loss from Clemson, but it's going to be at Boston College. So we're going to see the X factor here is North Carolina State's quarterback, Devin Lowry, and so how his performance does is going to determine how this season goes. But hey, I mean, he's throwing 9 touchdowns and 0 interceptions over the past 3 games. So, if he keeps playing like that, North Carolina State's going to be a team that you got to look out for. And now, like I said, that ACC is wide open. It is wide open. Number 24, you've got the SMU Mustangs, undefeated SMU. They beat South Florida 41-17. They've got Navy coming up, but how about SMU just being 5-0? I mean, you look at guys like X factors like Delano Robinson, senior linebacker, leading tackler last season. He had 4 tackles for a loss against South Florida. If they can start establishing, that defense like that, things are going to get very nice. And then not to mention their quarterback that they had transfer over from Oklahoma, Tanner. He's thrown 24 touchdown passes over the course of 5 games. And so, hey, look out for this team. They're a team that nobody's talking about, but maybe we should be. Who knows? And then at 25, San Diego State Aztecs at 4-0. They went from unranked, and yeah, now they're ranked 25. And so I think that's more of an indictment that the committee is not impressed with teams like Clemson. You see Clemson dropped out the top 25, I didn't see Fresno State up there either. So the committee, they say that the Aztecs are the teams that they really are harping on right now. It goes back to, their running back. He had, 110 yards rushing against, 110 yards rushing and a touchdown in each of their first 3 games, So that goes to show when he crossed that 100-yard mark, look out. This is a team that, hey, they're ranked for a reason, So I'm excited. I'm really excited for this team and seeing what they're going to be able to do moving forward, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes next week. I believe they have a bye week next week. No, sorry, they're coming off a bye week, so they've got New Mexico coming up next. Expect for them to win that one as well. So there you have it, guys. Just reviewed the top 25. A lot of different changes happened in this top 25. That just goes to show on week to week, things can change, especially right now. You've got your 1, you've got your 2, but then everybody else, they're just fighting to see who's going to be next. I feel strongly about, Iowa being 3. I like that right there. Penn State at 4. We'll see how long that keeps up, I feel, but certainly the Big Ten certainly has a lot of capable teams out there. So we're going to see it. I'm interested in seeing how the Big Ten is going to go because they got a lot of firepower, and someone has to win the ACC. So we'll see how that goes. And for the SEC, Bama versus Georgia. Would love to see that game. But, of course, those 2 teams got to stay focused and for the rest of the season moving forward. And a big-time loss for Notre Dame in terms of just where they're currently at right now. We'll see if they can recover from that and still make the college football playoffs or not. Oregon losing, that was big for that conference as well. But there you have it, my top 25 review. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section for sure. Which team had the most impressive win, which team had the biggest loss. And if you're the college football committee, what game stood out to you the most? Definitely be sure to let me know, guys. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and see you guys next video.